Hi there, and welcome to this month's Edie and Neal's book club event on well-being and stress reduction for librarians and library workers. Today, six of our authors will share new research and insights into burnout in the profession and provide tips on how to address it by pursuing kindness, joy, physical literacy, and other proactive measures for yourselves, your colleagues, and your patrons. We'll begin with a new presentation by Margaret and Paauw just after this pre-show of new and noteworthy editions titles, many of which concern wellness or well-being. These titles are available year-round at 10% off on the ALA store list prices for ALA members. ALA membership supports library funding, community development across all 50 states and the Northern Mariana Islands, which impacts nearly 240,000 people, and a vast professional network of tens of thousands of members across the U.S. Membership also allows you to participate in divisions serving your field specialty, roundtables dedicated to your passions in the profession, the ALA Connect online networking forum, and ALA Job List, which is for job searches. ALA membership also includes a subscription to the bi-monthly American Libraries magazine, as well as discounts in ALA conferences, e-learning programs, gifts, publications, and so much more. Visit ala.org to learn more about all the new benefits of ALA membership. And again, here are some more of our new and noteworthy titles, which you can get for 10% off on the ALA store site at alastore.ala.org if you are an ALA member. And of course, it's available to anybody to buy. All of that said, I want to introduce and welcome back our first presenter, Margaret Ann Paauw, who is the author of Navigating Difficult Situations in Public Libraries, the PLA Guide to Trauma-Informed De-Escalation. Here to talk about defining and identifying burnout. Welcome back, Margaret.
Great, thank you so much. Give me just a second here and I'll share my screen. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today as we discuss topics surrounding wellness that were incorporated in from our various books. My name is Margaret Ann Paauw. I'm the author of Navigating Difficult Situations in Public Libraries. I'm an assistant professor at Eastern Michigan University and former public library social worker for the Chicago Public Library. I've been working in libraries and doing research on library social work programs and partnerships across the country for about 6 years now. My background is providing community-based services to individuals experiencing serious and persistent mental illness and housing insecurity. So that's kind of my background and focus on what I've worked on throughout the course of my career. Okay, so today I wanted to specifically discuss a section of the book in Navigating Difficult Situations in Public Libraries. Specifically in Chapter 12, I provide an overview of the differences between burnout, compassion fatigue, moral injury, secondary trauma, vicarious trauma, and PTSD, as library staff can be susceptible to all of these. So I wanted to quickly provide some definitions of these terms, but for the time constraints for today, I'm just going to be focusing specifically on one, which is going to be burnout. So I'll start with that and defining burnout. Burnout is defined as chronic psychosocial stress due to workplace pressures. So again, chronic psychosocial stress due to workplace pressures, specifically burnout, has to do with what goes on in the workplace. Compassion fatigue is a state of physical and emotional exhaustion from compassion stress. This can often occur in individuals who take on caretaking roles, whether professionally or in their personal lives or home lives. Vicarious trauma is a change in one's worldview after experiencing an indirect trauma. A secondary trauma, which is a little bit different than vicarious trauma, though those terms kind of get used interchangeably. Secondary trauma is the development of PTSD after experience an indirect trauma. And then PTSD is the development of symptoms after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event that then interferes with your ability to daily function in your daily life. Lastly, moral injury, which is a newer term, a lot of kind of newer research on moral injury out there and becoming more of a thing. I've definitely, wanted to incorporate that into this book too. And I've been talking a lot about it in public libraries across the country. Moral injury is psychological stress resulting from acting or not acting in a situation that is congruent with one's morals. So in addition to definitions and an overview of each of these, this chapter, again, chapter 12 in my book, also incorporates findings based on research, including a screener that was adapted from a standardized measurement tool adapted to be applicable to work done in libraries. We've got handouts and several worksheets for combating burnout and compassion fatigue and some of these other things here too. So again, today I'm just going to be focusing on burnout and providing kind of an overview of that. So burnout, again, is defined as chronic psychological stress due to workplace pressures. So this term first emerged in the 1970s when a psychoanalyst working at a free substance use clinic in New York City realized he was experiencing symptoms that paralleled that of the people that he was serving. So he also noticed it among other staff at the clinic who were feeling overworked, overburdened, and under-resourced. At the time, the term burnout referred to drug abusers, so Freudenberger started using it to describe this phenomenon. Further, he said that burnout is like a building where the insides can burn out, leaving rubble and dust. If the burning and the burnout is extensive, it can affect the foundation of the building, leading to collapse. Maslow, another lead researcher in this field, conceptualized burnout in 3 different dimensions: emotional exhaustion, cynicism and detachment, and feelings of lower work accomplishments. So emotional exhaustion can include insomnia, forgetfulness, loss of appetite, chronic fatigue, depression, increased irritability, etc. Emotional exhaustion, I just covered that, sorry. Cynicism and detachment, also known as depersonalization or dehumanization, occurs when staff think of patrons as objects rather than human beings. So we might see patrons not as individuals, but as questions, problems, cases, queries, etc. We can see how this also happens in like the healthcare industry too. So this is a form of protecting ourselves, though. We might be, especially if we're feeling overworked or overburdened by the amount of people we see in a day, but we can see how depersonalization can also be problematic, right? We want to maintain humanizing practices and views of our patrons. Lastly, experiences of feeling less accomplished in the work we are doing is seen as burnout. This can include feelings of being overwhelmed with the workload, so much so that we don't get everything done, not feeling valued in the work that we're doing, or simply not having enough time in the day to do what we were hoping to get done, or in some cases, what was required of us. So burnout isn't just on the individual. Job attributions can contribute to burnout. Linden, Salo, and Jansen's research on library workers found that these attributes were present in library staff burnout. Workload was identified as a contributor to burnout through feeling overloaded by tasks or not having clarity on how tasks were prioritized. Oftentimes, librarians assist with a large number of patrons throughout the course of a shift and may not have enough time to complete other work tasks. Job control was identified as a contributing factor, as a lack of having an influence over what type of tasks or work they spent their time on, and was identified as burdensome to library workers. So in opposition, a main contributor to job satisfaction is control and input over the type of work and tasks the workers are involved in. Reward, or lack of reward rather, was identified as not receiving feedback on the work they were doing and feeling that their hard work was going unnoticed. Community speaks to the work environment. So those who experienced burnout had a work environment that consisted of coworkers not being as willing to help other coworkers, feeling isolated in the work that they do, or having different groups or cliques in the workplace. Fairness included unfair selection of projects where the same people were always asked to do special projects, and library workers who wanted to do certain projects were not selected to do them. So kind of having more equitability there can be important. Values were identified as workers feeling aligned with the values and culture of their library system, including what resources were focused on and whether those aligned with the individual's values. So now that we have a few definitions of burnout and examples from research, what does burnout look like? Again, the first thing is exhaustion. This can consist of physical and emotional exhaustion. But what does exhaustion look like? We might be moving slowly, feeling weak or sore. We might be feeling tired, of course, or have symptoms like headaches. Emotional exhaustion can look like irritability, or on the other end, maybe we're tearing up or crying a lot more than usual. Another sign of burnout is feeling that the work that we're doing isn't as effective as we want it to be. We may become frustrated that the work we're doing is never ending or never complete. Again, this ties in with Linden, Salo, and Jansen's findings on job control and reward and how important those factors are. Similar to feelings of irritability, we might develop a lack of patience or struggle with maintaining focus throughout the day. Issues with sleep and rest can be a big sign of burnout. Maybe we're sleeping too much or sleeping too little. Maybe job stress is keeping us up at night, or maybe stress from work is preventing us from getting other forms of rest and relaxing, and our ability to be present with our friends and family members, or doing other sort of things that refill our cups. Loss of enthusiasm towards the work we do can be another sign of burnout. Maybe we're confused about our roles or feel that we're ineffective or feel that our work is not being valued. Again, thinking back to Linden, Salo, and Jansen's research. These things can certainly contribute to not feeling enthusiastic about the work that we're doing. Depression and anxiety is another big component of workout. While you may not fit or need to fit diagnostic criteria to be clinically depressed, symptoms of depression and anxiety can certainly still be present. So what are some of these signs then? Well, we already talked about a few of them: issues with sleep, feelings of irritability or impatience, feelings of sadness or even crying. Those are all symptoms of depression and anxiety. Sometimes people will use substances such as marijuana or alcohol or other substances to cope with feelings of being overwhelmed or exhausted. Oftentimes people who turn to substances might not have more positive coping skills to utilize, which again is where an understanding of self-care and overall wellness comes in and the importance of that. Thank you so much. That's my time. I'm really pleased to pass you on to the next author to provide more information on their work on wellness.
Okay, thanks so much, Margaret. And next up, we have Elaina Norlin, who is the author of the 6-Step Guide to Library Worker Engagement, and she is here today to talk about surprising reasons why burnout isn't mitigated and what can be done about that. Welcome, Elaina.
Hello, let me get my camera. Hello, everyone. Hello, my name is Elaina, like you said, and my talk is going to be very quickly. This is just sort of like the other presenter said, a 2-hour talk in 10 minutes. So I decided to just give you some highlights of some things that I talk about all the time about burnout. And I'm looking at burnout this time and looking at it from a workplace organizational way. And I talk a little bit about why, even though we say that we believe in work-life balance and we're trying to do what we can in order to mitigate stress and burnout, that things continue to be the way they are. And from all of my research, and I've traveled around the world to give these kind of talks, this is what some of the things that I feel that are in most opposition. And so this particular talk I'm going to talk to you about is just 2 highlights that I have seen that are at tension. And also for you to think about as I talk about these things, is this what might be going on in your organization? And and just sort of questions for you to think about as your organization tries to mirror work-life balance. So to me, the heart of stress and burnout is how we measure success. How do we measure our value and how do we measure our worth in libraries? I have given this talk and I have talked about how do we measure success literally all over the world for libraries. And I would say 99.9% of people usually give me statistics, reports, how many people are walking through the door, how many people are using our reference services, how many people are accessing our stuff online. Our number one way of measuring our worth and how we communicate to our stakeholders is through sort of our data and presenting the data in any form that we have. So our I always tell people that data is very important, our reports, our statistics, our goal setting, our quantity metrics. But the reason why this is at odds with work-life balance is because when we are just sort of focused in on how we are presented in sort of data, it takes away the human elements of our work. It takes away our individual accomplishments of what makes us wonderful about being part of an organization. It's about the people. If the people were not there, there's no data to be found, right? And so what have found is that most libraries are much more skewed towards data than they are towards emotional impact, right? So this is not about throwing data outside the window. It's much more about how much of our communication is data centric. And so here's some practical things about how data and our overuse of data as our communication style gets into us is because say that we got a budget cut of 10 to 20% and we decided to cut services or we decided to cut something in there. Well, data shows us that if we were at a certain percentage last year, even though we cut things, it's really hard for us to then communicate the next year or administration to communicate the next year that our numbers are going down, right? So even though we might say we're cutting services, there's still a unconscious pressure to have the numbers either remain the same or increase, right? And so the odds between us making decisions based on what might be going on, whether you're losing staff, whether you received a budget cut, whether there's more innovative things that you have to take on, us being able to take those things off our plate, but still keep the data numbers going the way they need to go is usually, I see, always in conflict. And if you want to talk to me more about it, I'm happy to do that. You can always email me, happy to talk to you about this. But it's not about taking data away from us. It's much more about how can we be more in balance. So the other part of the tension is what is your why? Why are we doing the work? And as things in life and changes and technology and AI and all the different things come at us, what is our why? And to me, our why sometimes will change based on what's going on. And is our organizational flexible enough to actually talk about the why? And the why is mainly your emotional impact. Like when people come into your organization, how do they feel about being in your library? What is the feeling that they have? When they are interacting with you, what is their feeling about you? Like, for instance, when I used to be a director, I used to try to make sure that everyone who came into the library knew other people who actually worked in the library. I wanted people to know my staff by name, by not only face, by name, because I wanted, if somebody was going to attack our library, I wanted people to not only want to save the library, but to save the people in the library, because the people in the library were providing the impact and the emotional impact to make people go, yes, not only do I want to save my local library or community library, my academic library, but I love Elaina or I love Janie or I love Sue because they work in a library. And how can we strategically prioritize that? So our not only do we internally know our why, but the people on the outside coming in also know our why. And it's about that emotional impact. And I always say that this part of it is is something that we do a little bit, but it's not as much as we do the data. So it's much more like how can we balance more emotional impact with the data? Because the research has said from the beginning of time that people are persuaded emotionally first and they back things up by data. They're persuaded by their emotions first, all the time. And then they use the data to back it up. So this is not a either or. This is not a one size fits the other or more or the other, but it's much more about how are we at balance. So I have an example of this, just a small example. I go into lots of examples in my talk, but this is one that I can do really quickly. Every year, I'm very lucky. My birthday's in March. It's during an off-season time. And usually, me and my guy, we go to five-star hotels for like fractions of the cost because we're during an off season. Usually, March is sort of still wintry like, and so you tend to get really good prices. So we have stayed in a lot of five-star hotels. We have stayed in a lot of beautiful places. This year we actually went to the St. Regis in Morocco, which looks gorgeous, beautiful pictures or whatever. But I can tell you that we literally almost cried when we had to leave Morocco, not just because it was beautiful. I would say that we stayed in more beautiful places than this. Not because the food was great. The food was good, but it wasn't fabulous. Not because, the amenities were any better than any other amenities that we have stayed at any other five-star hotel. It was the people. You could tell that they were 100% crystal clear on their why. And they told us as soon as we landed and we walked into the building, they wanted to make sure that we had the best experience possible while we were at the St. Regis. And everybody knew the assignment from the housekeepers to people literally walking in the hallway. Everyone was 100% committed to making sure that you had the best experience possible. And not only did we feel that, literally everybody else that we interacted with, other customers that we interacted with in the hotel, said, one lady said that they canceled their trip and stayed there an extra 5 days just because it was how they made them feel. So that could actually take from all the hotels that we have ever stayed at. We are literally going to go there again this year, not because it was just some spectacular, but the feeling that we got inside of being there actually touched us. The people touched us. And that is what took us from just a lovely location to somewhere that we not only are going back, but I literally talk about anytime anybody's willing to listen. So that's the difference between how we can manage the data into order creating our story. That way we can actually downgrade some of the things that we're doing instead of doing running around crazy. If we knew exactly what our why is and be able to narrow down what we want to do, we can let go of some stuff. We can stop running around like crazy people, focus in on what we want to people to convey and actually build that instead of doing 100 things and not doing anything very well. So before I go, take a picture of this if you like. This is the questions to ask, or these are the questions to go back to your organization and ask. Does your organization know their why? Do you know? Have we ever talked about it? And when the why is also for us internally. We always forget about us as customers. And we internally, how does the organization make us feel? Right? I remember when I was a director, my job was to make my staff feel great, right? And because if my staff feel great, they're going to make others feel great. They're going to make others feel good. So, how can we internally feel good and externally? And what are the accomplishments? Our accomplishments are visible or behind the scenes? As a director, I spent a lot of times making sure the people who were behind the scenes are in front of the scenes. People knew their names. This is Shirley. She worked in circulation. This is one of the wonderful things she did. I wanted people to see the people who are not being seen. And then finally, are you balanced? Do you have a balance between the data and the why, the emotional and the statistics? Are you skewed in one way or another? How can we become more balanced so that way we can start to streamline, that way we can start to focus and not be all things to all people? And that's me. That's my information. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or anything about my research. Happy to be of service. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elaina. That was wonderful. Next up, we have Rebecca Haas, or Becky, who is the author of 101 Seeds for Library Joy, here to talk about joy practices. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you so much for having me. Going back a couple slides. So yes, my name is Becky Haas. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm so delighted to share about this little book, and it really is little if you have a chance to get a hold of it, called 101 Seeds for Library Joy. And so we're going to dig into some of practices. I work for the Anne Arundel County Public Library as Programming and Outreach Manager. I've been here for almost 11 years. Before that, I was with the Enoch Pratt Free Library for almost 7 years. And I do have my side hustle, which is Joy Work LLC. I'm a certified life coach and also get to talk about joy all over the country now, which has been amazing. So I love, love, love all of the joy movement. That is, I would call it a global movement, and the way that libraries get to participate and support. So first, definitions, because we love good definitions. So a feeling of extreme gladness, delight, or exaltation of the spirit arising from a sense of well-being or satisfaction. Yes, please, I'll take it. And then the other piece that I found really interesting is learning about active and passive forms of joy. So thinking about tranquility, a feeling of contentment with things as they are. This one, I'll admit, is definitely part of my practice. So for me, very often that passive joy happens when I remember to take a deep breath, which I literally have a stress ball that says, take a deep breath. So some of that practice, noticing, naming, claiming those moments of contentment, just as they are. And then active joy. So that's more active, right? So it involves a desire to share one's feelings with others, more engagement of the environment than passive joy. But the thing that I want to pause and just note is that both are welcome, both belong, both are part of joy. So we'll dig into some more of that as we're thinking about examples. So what can joy do for libraries? Take a look at this list. If this resonates for you, feel free to put an emoji. We just had this wonderful presentations about burnout. We know that there is a need for wellness for all of us, both as library staff and as part of this world, right? So if we think about some of this positive support, right? And I think that joy is part of that. Whatever solution that we have, joy is going to be a factor. Joy is part of resilience, resistance, and empowerment. So thinking about that for ourselves, both as individual library staff, but then also library leaders and our institutions as a whole. Yeah. So I lovingly use this metaphor of joy seeds. It comes out of farming and gardening and all of the amazing plant people in my life. So thinking about how we plant joy and what size joy. So it could be a sesame seed. It could be a coconut. Did you know coconut is a seed? I've learned so much. So these are some simple practices that we can put into our day-to-day to build our resilience and increase our joy. Again, both individual and collective. Community joy is absolutely part of library. So this is an example here on the left of a page from the book. So write a gratitude list, 10 things, activities, people, whatever it might be that makes you smile. And then refer to it. Maybe you put it as a post-it. Feel free to do it right now. It can just be little things. It doesn't have to be all the things, right? But it's that practice of noticing, naming. The joy practice I sometimes refer to as a joy spotting. So how we notice, name, and celebrate. So another joy seed, naming a joy buddy. So this is a good friend, Carlotta. She is a delight here at Anne Arundel County Public Library. To be at an outreach with Carlotta is joy, especially teens and our preteens. So how our teen joy shows up in our libraries, and then how we celebrate and support and share. So we've actually had Carlotta come and support some of our staff training, working with our volunteers, how we build that teen joy into not only our customers, but also some of the folks that are serving and working with us in our library systems. So feel free to take a few moments to jot down a name or two that's coming to mind for you of a joy buddy that supported your library journey. And I also add that it doesn't have to be a person. Maybe it's an animal or a tree or a book. It really is yours to decide who gets to help and support your joy journey. So celebrating all of those supports and naming it is key for some of that neuroscience. Another page from the book, encourage someone today. Send a shout out to a coworker, a customer, a community advocate. Let your joy buddies know that they are appreciated, and in that appreciation, celebrating your joy, celebrating them, send that shout out. It can be a text. It doesn't have to be a big lift. Maybe it's something you just put into an email or a Teams chat, whatever that looks like. It's powerful. Another way to practice joy spotting, just pausing, naming for yourself, where is joy today? What does it look like? How is it showing up in our library work? For ourselves, for each other, for your community. So one tool that's used very often is gratitude journaling. I'm also a big fan of joy journaling, putting those little tiny joy seeds somewhere. I often use my phone as a tool and put in my joy list. So again, that raising your awareness, raising that joy spotting skill for yourself and with your coworkers. Another page, this one also comes out of the Crofton branch here at Anne Arundel County Public Library, and it's about celebrating those plants, literally. So thinking about the plants that maybe are up on our bookshelves, or maybe it's community shared agriculture, our gardens. We have master gardeners that come and help and do programs with us, do one-on-one consultations. Houseplants, we have a houseplant club. All of it is welcome at the library. Landscaping, the outdoor space, the different ecological initiatives, so many ways that libraries support and nurture literal seeds and plant lovers at the library. This is Small Wins, which comes from the Harvard Business Review, and it's really about celebration. How are we celebrating the things that are working, that are going right? How do we let people know? We have a customer impact form that we use at Anne Arundel County Public Library that's been instrumental. And we've been pulling some of the quotes and stories and sharing that on social media. We have bulletin boards. We have different ways that we're doing that internally and then also externally. We take them to our board meetings, our donor presentations, really any way that we can celebrate our wins, we try to do it because it's so worth it. Not just for ourselves, but also for our community, internal and external. Another idea, this is a library joy day. And it can be, again, behind the scenes or out front, right? Maybe it's something that you're even using as part of a staff development. So how we celebrate our library joy days, taking an excuse to have a little more fun, to dial it up, We've done everything from crazy sock contests to scavenger hunts. We typically have a crew of 3 or more, and they come up with some of the different ideas and things. We've done categories. It's a lot of fun. We did it in February one year and had hearts and started a sharing library love and some of those stories, and then put those up in and around our library. So getting our customers to join in on the fun, and giving ourselves permission to dial that up. Celebration is so powerful. This is a lovely photo from a staff day in Chicago, so shout out to Chicago. Just celebrating all of the amazing things that happen in our community and when we gather. So taking time to schedule that. Anyone who's done a staff day planning knows it takes work, right? So having that celebration is key to making those gatherings momentous and memorable. Just a really powerful way to support ourselves and each other, our team, and our community. Very often those are the times where we have people coming in to commemorate some of the different things that we have going on. Next year, we're going to have the Obama Library. There will be many celebrations happening in Chicago in the next year. And ALA. So how many of us got our magazine? Shout out to the magazine. And are going to be gathering in Philadelphia. So another chance to celebrate, to name the things that are working, to have library joy in person, in the day-to-day, and bring all that good stuff back and share it with your coworkers and do those takeaway moments and the things that you want to pilot or try or copy paste. It's our library bread and potatoes, right? We want to copy paste all of that great library joy where we can. So hopefully we'll get to see some of each other in Philadelphia. My dad's from Philly, so big shout out to Philly. And lastly, there's my contact information. You're welcome to reach out with either of my hats to hear more about what we are doing here at Anne Arundel County Public Library and some of the really great work that we've done in community and with partners, and also with my joy work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky, for that joyous presentation. Next up, we have Helen Remmer, all the way from the UK. She is the author of The Kind Librarian, Cultivating a Culture of Kindness and Wellbeing in Libraries. And she's here to talk about just that. Welcome, Helen.
Hello. So yes, I'm in the UK. Hello, everybody. So I'm the author of The Kind Librarian, and I used to be library director at the University of Westminster, worked my way up through academic libraries, worked in academic libraries for over 20 years. And then I did a PG cert in the psychology of kindness and wellbeing. So I'm not making this up. It's all got some science behind it. And it changed everything. And I realised I could put fires out outside buildings and help those of you working in libraries to put them out inside buildings. Metaphorical fires, obviously. And so what I'm here to talk to you about is how we can spread kindness without spending any money. So these are simple things, and I just loved Rebecca's talk just now because so many of those things would also spread kindness. The joy and kindness, I think, is so intertwined. But what I'm going to do first is talk about kindness and what it is. There's actually not any agreed definition of kindness, but I quite like this one, that kindness refers to actions intended to benefit others. And it's something we're doing all the time. So I'm a qualified burnout coach. So I loved Margaret's talk on burnout just then, and really aware that in libraries, this is where this can go into overdrive. Our kindness can lead to burnout, to really falling, for all the things that Margaret was talking about. But it also can be the most amazing power to help us get our well-being much, much better. But first of all, kindness is not the same as nice. Being kind is an action. It's a decision, often, even if it's a tiny decision, And it's incredibly powerful. So when you are kind, you will release oxytocin, you'll get a dopamine hit. You will also, if you practice kindness a lot, reduce your cortisol levels. Your blood pressure will go down because it affects the hormones that affect that. You let off all sorts of endorphins and things. But that's you doing it. The person receiving your kindness, so for example, if you go in the UK, we've got the tube, I was on it yesterday. I helped someone on with a buggy, a pram, what do you call them? Stroller, lifted it on. We smiled, we said hello, we sat down next to each other, seats, we looked at each other, exchanged like a moment. You could really see there that we both felt better for what had happened. We both smiled, great, spread some joy. We will have bonded in that moment, releasing that oxytocin. But everybody who witnessed that will also have experienced that. And I think that's why kindness can be so powerful, because it affects not just the people who take part, but the people who witness it. Also, no doubt, I just happen to be the closest person to help them on the tube. Other people might have been thinking, oh, I'll do that. And they'll have still felt good for thinking they would do it. So it has real physical effects on us, being kind and going around helping each other, and really can be powerful. And in a workplace like libraries, and also in communities like we all work in, we often find that because if two people do something kind and there's people witnessing it, what happens is it ripples out, because you're also much, much more likely to be, well, you're almost certainly going to do something kind if you've experienced kindness, witnessed it, already done it. So that's why it's so powerful, and it can ripple all the way out into our workplaces by people just going, yay, I've just seen this person being kind, and now I'm off to do it. And you won't even know that's happening. But in a workplace, that can be brilliant. And one example I've got that really rippled was, it's actually a story off Reddit, but I've heard other people go and do this, so it's worked. This company, this person was working at a company, and it was all a bit, nobody was really getting on. They bought a bag of ducks off Amazon, and they stayed late, and they left them around the office. They even created little scenes with little ponds and things, and they left them. And then this started conversations around this act of kindness, which was to bring a bit of joy. So links very well there with Rebecca's. This act of kindness then broke down some barriers. People started communicating. Still, some of the stuff going on around was stressful, but they started talking about it. And then other people started bringing things in. Nobody knew who had done what, but other animals started appearing. And before they knew it, this ripple of joy, of kindness, because then people's barriers were put down because they were like willing to go, yeah, would you like a cup of tea? So that's why kindness is so, so very powerful. In a nutshell, I could talk about this. I talk about this all over the world, and I could talk about it for hours. But very quickly, let's think about some small things you can do that really matter, because budget cuts, staff pressures, uncertainty, we know all the challenges going on, but kindness and well-being don't have to cost anything. Small actions can build resilience, strengthen culture, and boost morale. So these 10 shifts are quick, doable, and proven to work. Now, the first one is starting meetings with a human moment. So beginning by checking in with how's everyone feeling today. You may also want to say, has anyone seen anything kind today? And start to raise that kindness up. It could be that you're going to share a good thing, and that includes witnessing kindness. It could be letting a car out of a junction, or you were let out of a junction, and that was a kind thing someone did. Or you witnessed someone buy someone else a coffee. Or I went into Greg's, which is a chain of bakeries, recently, and a homeless person was ahead of me, and they just waved his money away, and they gave him he'd gone in and asked for a sausage roll, and they gave him a coffee as well, and they said, "Do you want a cake?" This was the middle of the day. This wasn't stuff that was going out of date or anything. And that kindness made me think, oh, wasn't that nice? Isn't that really nice? And it ripples. So, but checking in and witnessing it and telling other people about it can be almost as strong. So sharing good things, kindness, a win, or just a word that describes your week, make space for people to be people, not just roles. And if you find people are a bit uncomfortable, share your thing. You can lead from any seat on this, and you can really bring power to it. Now, celebrate the everyday. Catch people doing something good and name it. So when you see something, say well done. You might want to have a kindness wall where people can put up post-it notes saying things they've noticed. It could be anonymous, it could be a shout out in the team chat, but keep doing it. And then it validates that kindness. Now, also, you could create a kindness corner, and this could be online or actually physical. You might want to leave some uplifting notes or quotes. You may want to really, it's all about making kindness visible and raising it up. It's all about encouraging. Now, if it's digital, if you're in a managerial or leadership role or any role, go on when people have posted things they're proud of or they've done well, go on and say, yeah, well done, that's great, and really validate that kindness, and that can be really powerful. Also, by focusing on the positives, so without turning into some toxic positivity, but what's been lifting you lately? What's going on? What is it that's brought you joy? And this really helps people start to reflect on what's going on, and it can build connections, because if you say, "How are you?" we all automatically go, "Yeah, okay, fine." You're not actually going to be digging in, but actually you can build some great relationships by saying what's been lifting you lately. Also, offer listening, not fixing. So actually, sometimes, for example, someone's been on the desk and they've had a really stressful encounter with a patron, actually afterwards saying, "Would you like coffee? Do you want to sit down with me?" And listening. And listening is so powerful, and giving people all your attention. So you minimize your distractions if you're doing it online, and absolutely active listen to people. Make eye contact and listen. And by listening says you matter, and pausing while you're listening can be one of the most powerful things you do. Complete coaching. This is what I teach people when I do my manager as coach and things. But actually, it's such a powerful skill to hold the space for people to just talk and let it out. Build in no meeting areas. So this is time for really reflecting. Now, one meeting, some places do one meeting free day, but that doesn't always benefit everyone. Actually, having one meeting free hour a day or a week can really benefit most people. So if you say to people, block out your time, that's your meeting free hour, you can decide, or the whole organisation has a time where there's no meetings. And it shouldn't just be lunchtime. Lunchtime should be meeting free anyway. But this really signals that well-being and focus are so valued. It also allows time for things like, if you've arranged a yoga class, let people do it. Also, co-creation, work with your team, work with your colleagues. What makes you feel safe and supported? What's going well? What is working? What has made you feel safe and supported elsewhere can also be a big thing. A kind culture grows when everybody's involved, and this can then really start to build a kindness agreement. But actually, the most powerful agreements often are, we're going to be respectful, and we're going to be able to raise concerns and things and build our psychological safety. Also, use your voice. Share kind feedback publicly. So actually, raise up how kind you can be, and shout about it at meetings with your boards, meetings with academics. Really share that kindness and really challenge unkindness. So culture shifts can really happen through everyday conversations. This is one of my favourites, really sharing skills, not just tasks. Encourage people to offer small skill swaps or teach-ins. So actually, say someone, Excel's a great example here, someone can do something amazing on Excel, say, how do you do that? Can you show me how you did that so quickly? And that really builds some confidence and collaboration and can reveal hidden talents. And then always end the week with gratitude. And this links beautifully with Rebecca's as well. So that gratitude, say thank yous, let people share what they're grateful for. And it can be small or it can be massive. And it really brings the full stop to the week. So final thoughts, few things to do is these ideas are small, but their ripple effect is big. And then kindness is culture building. It fosters trust, belonging, and hope. And choose one shift today and see what changes tomorrow. So make that commitment today. Go off and see what you can do. And I'd like to say thank you. Please do connect with me. You can visit my websites, Kind Brave Leader, and I'm launching Empower Library Skills. Link. I'm on LinkedIn and the Kind Brave Leader, and obviously the book's amazing. And my second book is coming out in January. So look out for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Helen, and congratulations on your second book. Congratulations on a great presentation this afternoon, your time. Next up, we have Jenn Carson, who is here today to talk about physical literacy. Welcome, Jenn.
Thank you. Okay, let me just get my video going and I'll share my screen. All right, you guys should be able to see that. Yeah, so I'm not in England, but I'm in Canada, so I'm also in a foreign country on a time difference. And yeah, so welcome to talking about physical literacy with me. I'm going to obviously take a slightly different tactic or track from everyone else. And so I'm a physical literacy researcher. A little bit about me is that I've been working in libraries for just about 20 years now. And I've been teaching all different kinds of sports for 20 years. As you can see, if you look in my video, I'm currently wearing sports equipment, an outfit, because I just came from a powerlifting class and I'm about to go teach a yoga class as soon as I finish this. And so, yeah, I coach boxing and jujitsu and yoga. And I'm also a librarian and a physical literacy researcher, and I also am trained in autism support therapy. So I've put that all together over the years to help librarians learn how to deliver movement-based programs in libraries. And it's really important to me that we give people the opportunity to connect their physical literacy with their textual, digital literacy and other kinds, and make that accessible to everyone. So a lot of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds feel really uncomfortable going into gyms or like yoga studios or organized sports spaces, maybe because they can't afford it, or maybe because they don't have the confidence to go in there. They feel uncomfortable. They think maybe they identify as being a not sporty person. I don't consider myself like an athlete, even though I do all this athletic stuff. I've always considered myself a book nerd, right? And so that's just like the talk that's in my head. And so there's all kinds of reasons that stop people from joining physical activity. If you didn't learn a lot of physical literacy skills when you were younger, you can be really afraid as you get older to pick those up. And so even though I'm in my mid-40s now, there's new sports I try all the time. So I first tried skiing when I was 40. I first tried skateboarding when I was 40. I didn't start training in jiu-jitsu until I was 33 or 34 years old. And so it's never too late to increase your physical literacy skills. And maybe it's not as extreme as mountain biking or snowboarding or whatever, but maybe you just try throwing a frisbee around with your kids, or going swimming if you're scared of the water. And so those are the sort of skills, the building blocks that I like to teach librarians about, and how we can offer those sorts of programs as little baby steps to get people interested in using their bodies in libraries. So I have 3 books. The one that we're focusing on today is Get Your Community Moving. And these are just some programs that I've done in my library. So I'm the library director at the LP Fisher Public Library in Woodstock in New Brunswick in Canada. And I've been there for 10 years. And these are just some ideas of things that I've done there. But of course, there's way more in the book. And like on my websites and if you follow me on social media as well. But these are just like a little tasty treat of like some ideas. And I tried to pick things that don't involve any cost or very little cost, because I understand from watching the news that in the States right now, a lot of you guys are getting your funding pulled, which is awful. And, you know, libraries are already short on funds in the first place. So here's an example of something we do all the time at our library. We have family dance parties. Sometimes they're an after-school program. The picture of the kids dancing, this one was actually at Christmas time. And we had a lady in our community who teaches ballroom dance come in. And she just gave like a free dance class to all ages. And we learned how to ballroom dance for like half an hour. Kids, adults, everyone in between. It was super fun. But sometimes we just have, and you know, she just volunteered, so it didn't cost anything. And then we also do after school programs, and we just do a dance party. So we just like put music on, and sometimes we blow up balloons for the kids to play with, because they can be a little awkward at first, like dancing, especially if they don't know each other. But everyone batting balloons around, or I'll put out some like bean bags, and we toss the bean bags around, and that like gets them their bodies moving, and then they start being silly with each other. And then as soon as they like get into the groove of the music, then they're like dancing with their balloon and they're having all kinds of fun. And it's, you know, it's sometimes we do pre-registration, sometimes it's just drop in, but it's just a fun way for kids to like connect with each other. And I always try to put out like snacks. We have a snack cart at the library, so we have like drinks and snacks, and it's a cool place for them to come drop in and just have fun. And then we have other more organized dancing, like, you know, like the ballroom dance. We've had swing dance programs at the library, square dancing, belly dancing. We've had like Celtic dancing. And I usually just try to find community members who would like to volunteer and teach. And then of course they can also take that opportunity to talk about their schools and hopefully like recruit people to come. But it's a great way for people to just come and try, because maybe you don't want to sign up for like a ballet class because it's scary. Or maybe you don't want to commit to like a 6-week belly dancing program, but you are curious to just come and try it out. Or maybe you just want to like sit in the stacks and peer around the corner and watch other people do it, and see if it looks like something that might be fun to do. And so that's just an example of some dance programs. One year we had a wild rumpus. So if you've read Where the Wild Things Are, who doesn't love to like be a monster and smash and crash and bang around the library? So this is me and a couple of my staff members, and all the kids, we made have paper crowns like Max in the book. And we just had instruments that we either made, like little kazoos and things that we made out of scrap materials, or we had instruments from our library of things, you know, ukuleles and tambourines and, you know, and lots of just play instruments that we had. And we just, you know, we did it in the afternoon when there wasn't people there studying and there wasn't people trying to quietly read the newspaper in the morning. And we went up to the children's department, where we're pretty loud anyway, and we just had a wild rumpus. We just like made a parade, and we just went all around the children's departments, in and out of the stacks like a big train, and we made as much noise as humanly possible, and we roared like and acted like monsters, and it was so much fun. And then of course we read the book, and then we just had some free play. But you know, we got to practice gnashing our teeth and doing all the fun stuff that Max and the creatures do in the book. And so again, we're just moving our bodies, but it's not in any certain like prescribed way. It's just free play fun, and the parents were welcome to join in, or most of them just wanted to take pictures of their kids having a good time. But you know, it's just something you can do that with lots of storybooks. So there's all kinds of books that I'm sure you read in your story times that have movement components into it. Well, why not take that and act it out in real life, and have the kids play along with the characters that they're reading about in their books. We do lots of running and walking events at the library. So right now, for example, I do a weekly run club. It's on Thursday evenings at 6:30 because it's hot here in the summertime, so we don't do it during the day. And it's just a super beginner run club. This is not for people training, you know, for like ultra marathons. This is just like moms and, you know, people that are just learning, just want to get out and like learn how to run, or just want the company. They don't want to run alone. And we have kids that come too. Like sometimes people will bring their whole families if their kids like to run. And we do anywhere from like 3 to 5 kilometers. But we take walk breaks and we do some stretching in the park afterwards, and it's like really chill. And sometimes we go down on the trail because we have a trail in town. Sometimes we go on the street, and we just sort of decide as a group when we get together, how far do you guys feel like running today? And sometimes we'll go and then we'll be like, let's do a little bit more. Or we're like, it's hot, let's go back to the library. Let's have a snack, you know, or like, let's go do some stretching and call it a night. And there's no prescribed expectation. And if a new person shows up, we're like, cool, we're gonna run a minute, we'll walk a minute. And if you want to walk more, that's cool. Like someone will stay behind. Nobody gets left behind. And we just like split up into groups of some people who want to go in the front, some people want to go in the back. We do like walking and stretching combination classes. We'll do an earth walk. So around Earth Day, we'll go out and pick up garbage, obviously with like gloves on. We also do Kids Kilometer Fun Run every year. And so every July I organize a fun run. A local business sponsors it, and we buy picture books for all the kids. So their prize when they cross the finish line is a picture book they get to pick out. So it's not a race, but it encourages them to cross the finish line because that means that they get to get a book at the end. And we have like fresh snacks, like, you know, watermelon and things like that. And usually a lot of those times they're donated from the local grocery store or the local farmers market. If our farmers have extra produce, we'll get that. And so it doesn't end up really costing us any money because we recruit donations for it every year. We just put like a sandwich board out to thank our sponsors. And of course, we encourage people with strollers or people with limited mobility. They just get a shorter route, or they just take their time. They don't have to, there's no deadline. So if it takes them 40 minutes to do a kilometer, I stand at the end and I cheer them on, and you know, they come across with their walker or their stroller or whatever. All ages are welcome to do it, but it's usually kids or families. And then we also do a reindeer run at Christmas time to raise money for the Salvation Army. And we all dress in like Santa costumes or reindeer antlers, and we do a little run, and then we have breakfast with Santa afterwards. And that's paid for by the Salvation Army, and everybody just gives a donation to participate to the Salvation Army, and they provide breakfast for us. And so you can partner with like your local churches or your local community groups or organizations to do things together. You don't have to like do all of the work yourself. I couldn't possibly do all of the things that we offer at the library by myself. So think about local sports organizations that you could partner with, like our local jiu-jitsu club. I'll get the black belt to come in and give a demonstration and bring some mats, and they get to show off their cool skills. And usually there's people in your community that are really interested in things and are happy to share. You know, find the local fishing association and have them come in and give a talk about fishing, or whatever sport you're interested in talking about. There's always going to be someone in your community who's super obsessed with it and are very happy to come in for free and talk to for an hour and lead a little program. I guarantee you, you just have to find those people. I usually try to recruit them like through word of mouth, asking around, or like I'll find Facebook groups and then I'll infiltrate the group and be like, hey, is anybody here interested in volunteering at the library? So that's how I started a cycle club. So we have local people who are super interested in mountain biking or cycling. I am one of those people, but again, I can't do everything myself. So over the years, I've reached out to people who own businesses where they repair cycles, or they are mountain bike instructors or cycle instructors, and I have them come and they give like a bike clinic. So you can bring your bike and they'll diagnose what's wrong with it. If it's something easy, they'll even fix it for you. And it's a great way for them to advertise their business and their services, and it doesn't cost the library anything. And people get to come have a little tune-up for their bike and get like their chain lubed and their brakes set in the right position so they're comfortable for their hand, their seat in the right position. They learn about the ergonomics of their bike. We have the police come sometimes and teach like road safety and hand signals, or do like a little obstacle course. And that's a great way to get community members comfortable with the police officers being in like a non-threatening place. Like they're coming in not because something terrible is happening, but they're coming in because they're just involved community members. And, you know, for some people that have experienced trauma around policing organizations, this is a great way to partner with your local police for them to come and do things that are non-trauma related, right? They're just doing an education piece. We do a weekly cycle. So every Saturday morning, as long as it's not pouring rain, I take a group out and we do a little cycle on the local trails or the local streets. Sometimes it's like half an hour, sometimes it's an hour, depending on who shows up and how far we want to go. And it's just really chill. We just go for fun. People with training wheels can come, people who are just learning to ride a bike, or like, you know, hardcore cyclists show up too. It doesn't matter. We just go out and have fun. And it's really more about exercising in community, and, you know, participating in something together. You don't have to be the best. Nothing is a race. Of course, I teach lots of yoga programs at the library. Chair yoga is a super accessible version of that. So on my website, so there's free PDFs. So I have made a little note at the bottom. So if you just go to jenncarson.com, ALA is kind enough that when I published my books, they let me share all of the infographics from that book, as well as other books I've published from other publishers. I always have an agreement that I can share the PDFs. So I have those in English and French. So you're welcome to print those off and share them with your libraries and your staff. If you're not a yoga teacher yourself, again, reach out in the community, or if you don't have one on staff, find a volunteer. In order for yoga teachers to get their certification, they have to have so many teaching hours, and they need to volunteer to teach those hours. They can't charge. So if you know a school, like a local yoga school that does certification, reach out to them and be like, hey, your students probably need some cert hours. I have a great space for that. And we provide our mats at our library because we had a donor who bought some mats for us. But you can also ask people to bring mats. They're not super expensive. You can get them at Costco and stuff pretty cheap. So of course, yoga classes, I'm a big fan. And they are super adaptable for all kinds of abilities. And then regardless of your feelings of about J.K. Rowling, Quidditch is super fun to teach to kids and teenagers and adults too. But if you've never played Quidditch before, it's really easy. All you have to do basically is have some hula hoops on a stick and some brooms. I don't have time to go into all the rules of Quidditch, but if you have kids that are Harry Potter fans, this will be a huge draw at your library. I have constant sold out Quidditch tournaments. And so they can just bring a broom from home because almost every household has a broom. So you don't need to collect like 15 brooms. And so I have again, it's on my website, or you can get it out of the book, all of the requirements of what you need. So you'll need like a soccer ball. You have to have at least 14 players, 6 hula hoops, and some smaller balls. Or we also just sometimes cut up foam pool noodles to use for that. So again, it's a really low cost, fun activity. And so if you're interested in learning how to do a Quidditch tournament, that would be very, very fun at your library. So yeah, so that's the book, Get Your Community Moving, Physical Literacy Programs for All Ages. There's so many more ideas in the book than I have time to talk about. And you can also go to my website, jenncarson.com, and go under the resources tab. And there's all kinds of free webinars and PDFs in French and English, and all kinds of ideas there. So thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you, Jen. Those are really wonderful tips that I'm sure a lot of people will be looking forward to implementing. Now, for our last presentation of this morning, we have Kathy Hakala-Ausperk, who is here to talk with us about many different things, including renewing yourself and just how to be a good boss in tough times, which we are living in now for sure. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. A lot of what I'm going to say is going to be repeated because of the great advice you've heard already this morning. But in my experience and with the books that I have written, my focus has always been on leadership new managers, experienced managers, tomorrow's managers. And I think it's really important, and I emphasize all the time, that wellness and avoiding burnout and minimizing stress are a huge responsibility of leaderships, people who have that privilege of being able to touch the lives of the people they supervise. And one thing we have to realize as leaders, whether you supervise one person or you're the director of the whole library, is it isn't just what you do that has an impact, but it's what you show people. We reflect our own behavior. We create culture at the top, and it is definitely reflected throughout the organization. So if you really want to have wellness and reduce stress and a more pleasant workplace, you're going to have to not only demonstrate that, but you're going to have to set that and require that and build that as the tone or the culture of your organization. So I have 10 quick ideas that I'm going to share with you. We were asked to keep an emphasis on things that were free, and so that's what I'm going to talk about today. These are all things that no matter what leadership position you hold, or maybe you're one of those people who aspires to be a leader, that you can keep in mind to make sure you're creating a culture of wellness. The first one is to be positive. There's a lot of stress with leadership, especially middle management. You might be coming out of a meeting at your headquarters where you've been told you have to go back and tell your staff something they're definitely not going to like. It's easy to slip into that stressful kind of, well, this is what they told us we have to do, let's figure it out. But positivity coming from the top of an organization makes all the difference in the world. I'm not suggesting that anyone needs to be Pollyanna or phony, or certainly not dishonest about things, but to realize that you can put things in a positive slant. You can find the best way, you can make good use of the old, I've got good news and bad news, but you can say to your staff, we're in this together. We're going to get through this. We're going to find solutions, and things are going to be better in the end, is an incredibly uplifting opportunity, and positivity is free. The second thing, and you've heard a little bit about this already in active listening, is to truly be present. It's also very, very easy, and I often caution new supervisors, it's easy to get stuck in the stuff that's associated with leadership, no matter what level, again, that you find yourself. You've got paperwork, you've got meetings, you've got time cards, you've got schedules. But we have to remember the number one responsibility of a boss at any level is the people that they impact, that they influence, that they are responsible for. So we have to be there for those people. We have to find ways to change our schedule around enough that we can interact with and get to know and understand the people who work underneath us, so that we can help motivate them. We can know what their goals are. One of the exercises that I use with a new supervisor training is I ask people to write down the names of everyone who reports to them, and beside it, put down what is that person's professional goal. Now, even if I have experienced leaders in the group, often they don't know, and we need to know. We need to know what matters to people. We need to be there for them. Our presence, our attention is free. The other thing is, wellness is conceptually almost a philosophical condition, right? But in order to get to that, we have to be healthy. And as leaders, we can establish more healthy practices in our workplace, and we really need to do that too. I hate to say this, but get rid of the donuts at staff meeting, bring in fresh fruit or vegetables, right? When you're having a meeting on a beautiful sunny day and you see everybody wistfully looking out the window, say, let's have a walking meeting, as long as everybody is capable. Or if not, go sit under a tree outside and have the meeting. Emphasize getting to work on time and leaving on time. Emphasize taking vacation time. Make sure that as a person in a position of leadership, you're not only modeling healthy behavior and healthy practices, but you're providing opportunities for that in your workplace as well. It's all going to contribute to general wellness in your workplace. And being healthy can be free. Another thing is balance. I remember a time I really needed a couple personal days off, and I was going into my boss's office to ask for them, and another coworker walked out of the office, and I said, "How is she today?" And the person responded, "Not good. She's in a bad mood." So I was defeated before I even began, and I turned to walk away. And then I thought, wait a minute. I have a right to ask for personal time. I shouldn't have to be affected by the mercurial ups and downs of somebody's personality. And as a trainer of managers, I have emphasized that. You know what I always hear, probably doesn't surprise you. Hey, we're just people. We can be upset too, right? We can be mad once in a while. And my response is no, you can't. Not to people you supervise. That isn't something that they deserve. And there are alternatives to taking out your frustrations, which are normal, on other people. Take a walk, take a break, call in sick, talk to somebody, get a hairdresser, a bartender, somebody who can listen, hopefully a colleague, but provide consistently respectful and professional interactions with your staff so that they know that there's a balance, there's a comfort level in their workplace. Being balanced is also free. Think back to somebody who inspired you, somebody who helped you, somebody who saw something in you that maybe you didn't even see yourself, and they helped you to grow. They encouraged you to try something new or to learn something new. One of the most important jobs of today's leaders in creating a healthy culture and maintaining and perpetuating wellness in the workplace is to develop tomorrow's leaders. You know who they are. You can probably think right now of somebody on your team who just demonstrates an affinity for leadership, problem solving, caring about people. Maybe they get in between coworker arguments and they find a way to mediate it and get it resolved. Find that person, all those people, and help them. Give them encouragement, suggest new activities, give them a new assignment that maybe will surprise them and they'll think they can't do, but they can. You know they can. Tell them they can. Being supportive is critical, and it's free. I love this quote by Bear Bryant. Like you, I've worked in places where all of a sudden the boss, the leader, the supervisor, the manager takes credit for whatever solution was found to a current issue or challenge. Make sure that your staff members who report to you know how much you value them, how you respect their intelligence, their ability to perceive potential solutions. And don't just call a big managers meeting when you've got to solve something, but get down to the front line and talk to people and get their ideas. Use their ideas, recognize them for them, thank them for them, and give the credit away. I worked for an amazing director once who used to say, the more power I give away, the more power I have. He was building and growing people. And generosity, again, is free. This is another one of my favorite quotes. I use quotes a lot in my books and my presentations and my trainings, but this is a really great one. In order to really impact your workplace culture, which is what this is all about, right? All of these tips on wellness and positivity and joy. In order to do that, we have to get beyond just the nuts and bolts of the work that we do, and we have to get to the reason that we do our work, right? We have to get to tapping into the passion that people have, developing that, focusing that, and then getting out of the way and letting them come up with ways to implement or to share or to provide the services that we stand for. In other words, we have to inspire other people. One of the things that gets in the way of this kind of inspiration is when we try to do everything ourselves. I bet there's a plenty of you out there who have worked for people, bosses who do pretty much do everything themselves and then take all the credit for it. Sometimes making decisions that aren't even practical, but don't take the team or the staff members into consideration and involve them in solutions and decision making. Those are the kinds of things that increase turnover. The opposite of that is the kind of treatment that encourages dedication and loyalty. And those are the kinds of things that once we have found and hired the right people helps us to keep them. And inspiration as well can be free. This is a copy of the image that was printed on the top or the front of a sympathy card that the Walt Disney Company sent to the Henson Company when Jim Henson died. Mickey consoling Kermit the Frog. You know, there's a lot said, a lot of training held, a lot of challenges about supervising, especially supervising peers or friends. You know, they'll say, well, you cannot be a friend of the people you supervise, but you can be friendly. Now, that's kind of a tough thing to tear apart, and we can spend a lot of time talking about that. But the bottom line is we can't still be part of the working clique, but we can care. We need to care. We need to show we care. Why? Because that goes back to supporting what I talked about a couple minutes ago, trust, respect, and validity. Caring about people, about their issues, is not the same as really getting in and having lunch and going over to their house every night, you know, for a beer. But it is caring about the work and the lives. Everybody's got a life. Everybody's going to have something come up that they need to do. You don't ever want to be the kind of boss where people are going to pause outside your door and ask somebody, what kind of a mood is she in? You want them to just knock on the door and say, can I go home early? And I would hold up my hand and say, stop. You don't have to tell me something's wrong. Go ahead and go. If I had to cover the desk, I would cover the desk. But I had to care, and I did care about the people I supervised. Caring is free. I had a boss once who asked us all to wear white shirts to work the next day, and we did. We assumed this wasn't us. This is just an example picture. We assumed there were going to be pictures taken or something. She had brought in a spaghetti and meatball lunch. So that was the joke, right? Who can eat the spaghetti and meatballs with their white shirt? We got to have fun. We have to take ourselves less seriously. I had another wonderful friend of mine who worked as a director into his elderly age, I guess I'll say. And what he would say when people would ask him, when are you going to retire? He'd say, when I stop having fun, I'm going home. Find ways to have fun. Some of them are going to be silly. Some of them are going to be laughable. Some of them are going to be a little ridiculous. Let other people do it. Appoint different people. Give everybody a month to do one thing that's fun. But make sure everybody's having fun because, you know, we only go around once in life, right? We spend a lot of time at work. Fun can be free. And my last one is to think, if you're one of the people listening right now and you're thinking to yourself, I used to do that kind of stuff. I used to be more energetic. I used to try to inspire, but I've seen that, been there, lots of problems. Maybe it's time you renew yourself. Get back to the passion that you felt on that first day that you got the job you wanted so badly. That first day that you walked in the door. Get yourself back to that and make sure that the passion that you feel for your work is renewed and then reflected through your entire team. Wellness will result and burnout will go away if we really treat one another in these ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. That was a wonderful note, and just really wrapping everything up beautifully and connecting everything so well. Excellent presentations, all presenters today. Wanted to let everybody who's listening know that the recording of this event should be available by this evening on the Maine American Library Association YouTube page. And if you are interested in attending other events that are produced by Ailey Editions, Ailey and Schumann, visit aileyeditions.org/events. And we typically have registration links for different events listed there. We do have time for a brief Q&A with our presenters. It'll just be a single question Q&A, and any other questions can be directed to the presenters, authors, by their email addresses, which have generally been provided as a part of their PowerPoint presentations today. If I could have all of the presenters come back on with their cameras and their audio, I will share our single closing question, and it can be answered in any order. Whoever wants to go first, just raise your hand. And that question is, we're getting ready to go back out into the real world with this presentation now being over. I guess we're in the real world as a part of it too anyway. What is one thing each of you would suggest that our audience do as soon as this Zoom is over to better enable a smooth psychological transition between this program and the rest of their days, especially if they work in a library?
I'll go first.
Thank you.
It's Jen. Yeah, so I would get you to do the 6 essential movements of the spine. So everyone can do it with me really quick. You're going to move your body in 6 ways. You can either do it sitting or you can do it standing. So put your hands overhead, clasp your hands, big inhale, exhale, turn to the right, inhale back to center, exhale, turn to the left, inhale back to center, exhale, lean to the right, inhale back up, exhale, lean to the left, inhale back up, exhale, look up at the ceiling, inhale back up, and exhale, watch your head, don't hit it on a desk, lean forward, hang out on your lap for a second, and then roll yourself back up and roll your shoulders back where they belong. There, you moved your spine in the 6 ways it needs to move every day, and you're ready to go tackle your day.
There we go.
That was great, Jen. I'll go next. I would suggest you have a conversation. Find somebody to talk to share some of the things that really moved you that you heard this morning. And in that way, you might be moving forward ideas for change, for a meeting, for a workshop, for a training and staff, for anything, any way that you can apply some of the things you've learned. Don't keep them to yourself. Start a conversation with someone.
Very good. Anyone else?
I would add a post-it takeaway. Just jot yourself a note of whatever resonated for you. And it can be a little thing. For me, it's joy water. I love to drink water after these kinds of things. I never drink enough water. So whatever works. But a post-it reminder is a great way to remember what worked.
I'll add, and it slightly links with what we just did, which is begin noticing your inner dialogue, but also practice some self-kindness today, because kindness starts with you. It can't get anywhere unless you're kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
And that might be water.
Mine kind of comes off of that a little bit. Think about identifying what your needs are and what your needs are specifically at work in your workplace. So what do you feel like you need to be well or safe while you're at work? And then what are things outside of work that can help refill your cup? And then I think lastly, kind of to help with that too, is be mindful of the transition between work and then going home. I try to take like a couple steps back when I am doing this transition. So sometimes, and I talk a little bit about this in the book too, sometimes I'll just like have a mindful practice where like my day is done. These are all the things I didn't get to. That's okay. These are all the things that I cannot do at home, right? Like can't be done until the next time I come in, and kind of just like leaving that in the car and leaving that at work. So I think that like transition can be really helpful, important, and like kind of teasing out our work-life balance stuff.
And that demarcation is so key, especially if you're a part of a digital library or if you're, moving between different settings in a library or as an LAS instructor. So definitely very key to think about that line and how to draw it, as the culture of work continues to evolve. Elaina, anything from you?
Yeah, I would finally just say from just a bigger perspective that 80 to 82% of the library profession are introverts. And so that sometimes in our sort of introverted work culture, we're not giving ourselves permission to even have the time to do all these wonderful things that people are just got through saying. So I want you to prioritize sometime during the day to take that 10 or 15 minutes out, take all of this wonderful advice and be okay that you need that as an introvert, you need that time throughout the day to recharge. A lot of work that I do in introversion, I find that libraries, we just kind of plow through the day, kind of ignoring the subtle cues that we are introverted and need that time. And at the end of the day, you're depleted, you're angry, and you're, bringing that energy back to your home. So I always tell people throughout, it's okay to just close your office and prioritize that recharge time. And during that recharge time, these ladies' wonderful advice would be helpful.
Excellent. And I know, Helen, you're still answering one of the questions in the chat. I wanted to again thank all of the authors for coming today, for giving 6 incredible presentations with a lot of meaningful and practical advice that I'm sure many of our participants will be implementing today and hopefully bringing back to their colleagues and to the conference in Philadelphia later this month, and spreading joy and reducing stress and addressing burnout in that way, and just in general promoting a culture of well-being. Again, thanks all, and feel free to get in touch with our authors directly if you have more questions about well-being or about their books. Have a great rest of the day, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are. Take care all.